So one of the questions we've been asking on this channel for a while is, did the intelligence agencies know about the severity of COVID-19, bearing in mind the intelligence agencies in the UK, in the West, in Europe, US, have vast budgets. They are conducting spying not only on citizens such as myself, such as you probably watching this video. They have access to your emails, they have all your phone call logs, GCHQ trawl vast amounts of internet data, right? And we have huge intelligence agency networks with all the resources they have, bearing in mind two of the countries that the West, UK, America spy on more than anybody else is Russia and China. With all that intelligence information, surely they should have been aware from just spies, intelligence network, informants from China, how bad this virus would be. I mean, bearing in mind, people were just going on Chinese social media openly calling out the Chinese government. You don't need to be the best spy in the world to have picked up this data. Now, if the intelligence agencies knew, why didn't they tell the government? Or if they did tell the government, why didn't the government act? We're starting to get some answers to this question. This is from the Telegraph. Ministers fully aware China was covering up extent of coronavirus outbreak in early weeks of crisis. Ministers were made fully aware by intelligence agencies that China had covered up the true scale of the COVID-19 outbreak. It was claimed on Sunday night, raising questions over Britain's decision to delay the lockdown. The government in Westminster was told not to believe Beijing claims from the outset and to treat the information coming out of China with skepticism. The Telegraph understands a senior former MI6 official said the intelligence agencies knew what was really happening in China and passed that information on to ministers. So it seems that the government were informed but chose not to act on this information. Now, if we had acted earlier, we could have potentially locked the borders down, or at least screened to a lot higher extent, such as South Korea does, screen everybody coming into the country, and it would have probably made the spread of the virus a lot more manageable, right? One of the reasons Sweden probably does so well, it's not really a hub country. When you look at, like, Italy has strong connections to China, Spain has a lot of tourism, is a more connected country, say, than Sweden. One of the reasons Sweden, the herd immunity will work in Sweden, is because the virus can slow burn through it. It's not really a hub country, whereas the UK obviously is, right? All the flights coming into Heathrow and other airports. It's a globally connected country, specifically London is. So that's one of the reasons why London and the UK will be particularly hard hit. One of the reasons Sweden will work is because they can let the virus slow burn through the country and it not be too bad. We had the opportunity to that. We could have locked the borders down. We could have stopped all flights from China very early on. And yeah, the virus would have still got hit. It's pretty much unavoidable, right? But you could have controlled, slowed it down. You either like minimize it to a great degree, or at least have a slow build up of herd immunity, much in the same way as China has. Now, real questions should be asked. Why has this been allowed to happen? I mean, there's only two real answers to this. Is either government incompetence, which is highly likely, or the government actually just wanted a lockdown. Maybe this was just a live test on what they can get away with, right? Because I think I'm surprised, just as many other people, especially people in the government, I think are surprised how this experiment has gone, how willingly the British people and virtually the entire West has been to surrender its liberties, surrender things that we've held dear for 500, 600, 700 years in the UK. It's amazing like how this experiment has played out. Now, Boris Johnson has always wanted to go down as a Churchill, right? Churchill is one of his idols. He's written books. He's done many presentations on Winston Churchill. Now, this is really going to be a problem for Boris Johnson. I think that he still has a lot of support. In a crisis, leaders tend to maintain a lot of support. People don't tend to switch leaders or not critical of their leaders. During the time of crisis and the time of war, you tend to keep your leader. We're in a state of crisis. The economy's going down the pan, facing potential bond collapse in the future. Pound is going to be wiped out with most other fiat currencies. This isn't good times. So this certainly isn't times that the media and the general public are going to turn on Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, though, potentially longer term out of this, is possibly going to go down as a Neville Chamberlain rather than a Winston Churchill. Now, history kind of really discredits Neville Chamberlain. I don't think he's as bad as history portrays out. But, history is kind of written by the victors, right? So Churchill just was in that position where he really went down in history as, a hero, a saviour. Neville Chamberlain, kind of peacemaker, maybe he was a bit weak. There's a lot of arguments for that. There's a lot of arguments against that, trying to avoid a war. But Boris Johnson, over the failures of dealing with coronavirus, COVID-19, if this intelligence was ignored early on, and the consequence of that is we wipe the entire economy out. Bearing in mind, if we'd locked down earlier on, we probably wouldn't need this draconian, when I say lockdown, I mean lock down the borders, right? Stop the flights coming in from China, slow down the flights coming from infected countries, and we wouldn't need this lockdown that I'm in. You know, I can only leave the house for 1 hour a day or something mad like that. We probably wouldn't need the draconian measures we're in now if we had just stopped the flights coming in, and we probably could have saved the UK economy. We probably could have avoided the longer term consequences that will come off the back of this, like the collapse of fiat money, the bond crisis. It's going to get messy, right? Most of you watching this video probably know how messy it's going to get, but the normies haven't woken up yet. And when the normies do wake up, I think it's going to be a problem for Boris Johnson. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting one, guys. It turns out that MI6 did know. I mean, it would be very hard for them not to know, right? It'd be very hard for them not to know, considering China, Russia, two countries that we spy on more than any other. They must have known. Obviously, there's no named source in this, but just judging by like common sense, MI6 must have known, just judging by the amount of spying we do on China. If they have passed this information on to the government, there's just no reason why they wouldn't. Serious questions will be asked, and I do maintain this government is going to struggle as this unwinds and people grow with more anger over the situation, over the what probably will turn out to be an unnecessary lockdown, over the deaths that we made. It's just an interesting one anyway. I mean, the virus still largely doesn't actually kill that many people, but it's going to be, I've always said from the beginning, don't fear the virus, fear the consequences of the virus, and the consequences of the virus are going to be very, very severe. Just my thoughts and opinions. I could well be wrong on this one. Love to know your thoughts and opinions on this one, guys. Jason from Liberty Bunkers sign off, and I'll see you in the next video.